what's going on, everybody? It's the 6th episode of the Dockery Docket, and it is a very, very special episode. As of this day of the release of this video, I will officially be a college graduate, which is extremely exciting, and luckily Sherman left his little toys so I could play with that and, sort of celebrate. Woohoo! So excited. I can't play any music because YouTube has a bunch of copyright stuff, and I would like to be on good terms with them, but I wish I could have played music because that would have been a lot better than me playing with this little toy, but that's okay. So, as of Tuesday, when I release this podcast, because today is Saturday, I record on Saturday, release on Tuesday. So I actually graduate tomorrow, which is crazy to think about, as I will be marching across the stage, getting my diploma in communications and a minor in political science. Yes, I am graduating from college, not from high school, as people have claimed that I sound like a high schooler and stuff like that. Not on the podcast, but just in general. I was in class one time and someone was like, "Wait, you're graduating? I thought you were 18." So, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm over it now. It's just because I'm short and stuff. But anyway, I'm very happy to be here, and I hope that you're happy to be here as well, as you have clicked on this video. Today is going to be sort of a shorter episode. I'm going to try and make it a bit shorter because all of this week I've been working on my finals, so I've had a lot of papers to write, a lot of things to do, a lot of exams to study for. I had barely any time to get this Dockery Docket to be perfect and up to date, and there was a lot that happened this week, so I might have to use some of this material, maybe put it in next week, stuff like that. But I want to talk about impeachment. I know episode, 3 or 4? I said I don't like talking about impeachment. It's still true to this day. I don't like talking about impeachment. It makes my head do crazy things and stuff like that. So Nadler and his goons, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters, all these people came out. They had their heads hung low and they looked very sad, and it was a very, very sad time for them, because they have to impeach the president. They don't want to do this, except they've wanted to do it since the 2016 election. But anyway, Nadler released the articles of impeachment, which these articles are obstruction of Congress, abuse of power, because Donald Trump apparently demanded Ukraine to investigate the Bidens, which we read from the transcript. That's not true. He didn't demand it. He never did all that stuff. And obstruction of Congress is because Donald Trump didn't want to testify or come into the impeachment hearings because he believes that this is a total sham, which I don't really blame him for. And also, Trump has released different transcripts to the Senate, to the Congress, to the House Judiciary Committee, 2 transcripts of the phone call that he made with the Ukrainian president. So, I feel like the White House is transparent enough, but all because Donald Trump doesn't want to sit and talk about what he did because he's trying to run a country means that he's going to be impeached over this. So a lot of Republicans have come out and said this is ridiculous. How can you prove that these are crimes? Because they're very baseless claims, and they're very broad, and they're very basic. You can't point at one thing and say, okay, he did this. If Trump were to have murdered someone, you can say, okay, he murdered this person, and we have evidence of him murdering someone. Here, you have no evidence, and you basically don't have a crime either. What's your opinion on abuse of power? How do you prove that he abused his power? Obstruction of Congress. How can you say that he obstructed Congress when he released X amount of different things? So I would say that this is going nowhere, but sadly, it went somewhere. So the Judicial Committee had to talk about it. Are we going to accept these impeachment proceedings? Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And surprisingly, well, not actually surprisingly, surprise, surprise, they passed them. The House Judiciary Committee passed the articles of impeachment, which then moves it to the House of Representatives to be voted on. The interesting thing about the vote in the House Judiciary Committee was that it was on party lines. Once again, remember, we're going back to the third episode or the second episode, whichever one where I talk about impeachment, that's the one that I'm referring to. But in that episode, I said that I don't like talking about impeachment because it's so partisan. This is exactly what's happening. The House Judiciary Committee voted on party lines. No Democrats voted no, and no Republicans voted yes. This means that it is a partisan job. This is a partisan hit job on the president, and that's not okay. So after these articles were accepted by the House Judiciary Committee, they then go to the House to be discussed. The full House, not the Bob Saget show, but the full House of Representatives, where the articles will be talked about, they'll be discussed over and over again, and what will more than likely happen is that Democrats will vote to impeach. Democrats have more in the House, so Donald Trump will be impeached. It'll go to the Senate. The Senate will vote on party lines once again, leading to a 51-48 vote, which means that Trump will stay in the White House because there's no evidence here. But that will label Trump as a impeached president, and the Democrats will use that to their advantage in the 2020 election over and over and over and over again. So, speaking of the 2020 election, which is coming up very soon, like it's flying, time has been flying by. Time has been flying by for this president. I mean, 3 years of investigations, that's crazy. So, Democrats have said that if Trump is not impeached, then he could try and cheat in the 2020 election, just like he, quote, did in the 2016 election, unquote. So this is what Jerry Nadler had to say about this whole idea that we need to impeach the president right now, because if we don't impeach the president right now, then he could try and cheat again.
To address the present crisis. The integrity of that election is one of the very things at stake. The president has shown us his pattern of conduct. If we do not act to hold him in check now, President Trump will almost certainly try again to solicit interference in the election for his personal political gain.
So the most important part of that speech that he gave was saying that if Donald Trump were to not be impeached and go into the 2020 election, that he would more than likely cheat again. And this is very scary stuff, because you will have a situation, we as a country will have a situation where the 2020 election is going to be absolutely crazy. Do you really think that Donald Trump, if he loses the election, is just going to be like,
oh, well, I lost. I'm going to go home to Mar-a-Lago and just chillax?
Because if you do, you're crazy. Because more than likely Trump will say,
the Democrats have cheated. They investigated me for 4 years, and now I'm out of office. This is horrible. I want to recount.
And so then there'll be this whole big drama about should Trump want to recount, all this stuff. Even if he loses by a landslide, Donald Trump will still fight this, because that is how Donald Trump is. Flip it around. If Donald Trump wins in 2020, more than likely Democrats will say, oh, well, he just won because he cheated. He just won because of Ukraine. He just won because of Russia. Oh, it was those Russian bots again. And then you have two sides that aren't accepting of the elections. And this is very dangerous, because we need to make sure that we have a country where people accept the elections. You can be mad about the election results. You can say, oh man, I really wish that my candidate would have won. But you can't say, man, I wanted my candidate to win so bad that I want to impeach him, the opponent who won the election, because I'm so mad that they beat my person. And that has been happening for the past 3 years. And so thinking about this whole situation of, oh, well, if Trump wins in 2020, then he cheated. And he also, quote, cheated in 2016 using, quote again, Russian interference. I'm rolling my eyes aggressively. Using Russian interference to meddle in our election. Somehow the Russians were able to influence people from Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida, Ohio, Iowa to vote for Trump. I don't know how that happened. But, importantly, there have been other elections where Democrats have claimed that they were stolen from. So this first one was George W. Bush versus Al Gore in 2000. So this was a whole big catastrophe. It was nuts. I mean, you can watch documentaries about it, but a lot of us weren't old enough. I was 4, I believe, at the time. So I don't remember it. I don't remember this election at all. But apparently it all came down to Florida. And there was a recount in Florida, and there were so many different ballots. Al Gore won the popular vote with 50 million votes, and George Bush won the Electoral College vote with 271 votes to Al Gore's 266 votes. And the voting percentage was George Bush with 47.9% and Al Gore with 48.4%. So it was a very close election. You know, it wasn't a giveaway on who won. It was a very, very close election. And a lot of people have claimed that this election was robbed from Al Gore because George Bush's brother, Jeb Bush, was the governor of Florida when this happened. And so people claimed, oh, well, he used his brother to help him win the election and stuff like that. So there was a recount, and in the end, George Bush won. George Bush became the president of the United States. And the good thing was that Al Gore conceded. He said, okay, well, I lost the election. You know, President George Bush is now the president and all that stuff, which is very, very, very important. Okay, that I want to drill that into your mind. It is important to concede the election if you have lost. Okay? So, second example of a election being stolen from the Democrats was just stolen straight from underneath their noses. Was a more recent example of 2018 Florida governor's race. Florida's governor's race. Wow, that's hard to say. Florida's governor's race. It was between Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gillum. So once again, just like in 2000, this was a very close race. Now in Florida and other states, they do it by popular vote. So Ron DeSantis won 49.6%, and Andrew Gillum won 49.2% of the vote. So once again, very close election. Very, very close. And so this led to a recount. And in the end, Ron DeSantis was chosen, or not chosen, but he was proved to be the winner of the election. And Andrew Gillum conceded, just like Al Gore did, which is a very, very important thing. But still, Democratic candidates who are running for president now, I believe Kamala Harris has said it, and others have said it, you know, oh, if Republicans would let people vote more, then Andrew Gillum would have won. If Republicans would allow for better voting, then Andrew Gillum would have won. Democrats have claimed that Republicans are somehow lowering the vote of African American votes. So once again, this one was a good election, you know, like Andrew Gillum conceded. Everything was okay. He claimed that Ron DeSantis was the governor of Florida and stuff like that. So now we go to one of the biggest ones. This is one of the biggest examples of, quote, an election being stolen from someone else, unquote. It was between Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams. This one was very interesting, and I actually remember watching it and seeing all this stuff unfold. So once again, it was a very close election. You know, Brian Kemp won 50.2% of the vote, and Stacey Abrams won 48.8% of the vote. So it was very close. They were very close in percentage-wise and stuff like that. This one is different, however, as Stacey Abrams did not concede in the election and claimed that, oh, well, Brian Kemp is still the governor, but I would have won if it wasn't for the Republicans disenfranchising African American votes. There seems to be a theory with Democrats that somehow different polling stations close at certain times, so then African Americans can't vote, which is very interesting to me. I don't really understand how that works. You know, how can you close a polling station and not let people vote? And, you know, there's ideas that the lines are longer in poorer neighborhoods, which poor neighborhoods, and then that leads to people not being able to vote because the lines are too long, so they go home. There seems to be this notion with Democrats that Republicans are disenfranchising African American votes by using different polling stations and not giving enough finances to different polling stations in more poor communities who are more minority communities. But, I mean, I don't believe that this is true. So anyway, Stacey Abrams has gone on the attack about all this. She's created some organization called Fair Vote organization, which makes sure that people can vote, which, I mean, it's a good thing, but at the same time, you need to concede the election because you lost. It's clear that you lost. And just like with the Andrew Gillum case, multiple Democratic candidates have come out and said, oh, well, Andrew Gillum would have won and Stacey Abrams would have won if it wasn't for Republicans holding up African American votes, which I don't believe is true, that Republicans are doing that. Then we turn to the 2016 election, which I believe that we all remember this one. It was the one that gave us Donald Trump as the president of the United States. And this one was very interesting, as Donald Trump won, and he calls it a landslide, but I don't think it really is a landslide. But he won a majority of the electoral votes, but he lost in the popular votes, and this was claimed that it was, this is why they claimed that it was stolen. You know, they wanted to have it so the popular vote would count as well, as Hillary Clinton got 48.2% of the popular vote. Donald Trump only got 46.1% of the popular vote. And also, they have the idea that Donald Trump cheated with the Russians and all that stuff. Democrats win the election, then, oh, it's by the people. It's for the people. What a great election. And if the Republicans win, oh, it's because they cheated. This is what has been happening in Great Britain, as recently Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party over there has won the election, and many people have gone crazy saying, oh no, they cheated. They did all this stuff. They're terrible people. So the question of have Republicans ever won an election is no. Republicans have never won a presidential or congressional or governmental or any other election because apparently, according to the Democrats, they are just a big bunch of cheaters who cheat and suppress votes of different people so then they can win. And they use Russians and other people from other countries to influence the election. That was a joke. Like, I don't think, and I think it's stupid that Nadler said in 2020 that the election is going to be, the faith in the election will be low. That's not okay. If Donald Trump wins, they should accept the results of the election, and if the Democrat wins, then we should all accept the results of the election. We can be mad about the election. I want to make that clear. We can be upset that our candidate lost, but at the same time, we can't say, oh, well, they cheated. That's not okay. That's not how our country works, especially when it comes to our democracy. Remember when Hillary Clinton was all mad about Donald Trump saying that he won't accept the results of the election, and she was like, this is a threat to our democracy and all this stuff, and then 2 seconds later, she came out and said that she doesn't believe that Donald Trump won the presidential election. This is exactly what happens when you don't accept the election, is you make yourself look like a fool. Speaking of fools, Greta Thunberg has become Time's Person of the Year, and she is our representative for the Babylon Bee article of the week. So, this article says, "You have stolen my dreams and my childhood," says girl currently gracing cover of Time magazine. According to sources, a girl who has a pretty awesome childhood gained fame and accolades, and even being featured on the cover of Time magazine, lectured the nation for stealing her dreams and her childhood. "You have stolen my dreams and my childhood," said the girl who had a pretty good childhood, sailing around the world, getting fame, fortune, praise, and also being entirely immune from criticism because she's both a brave activist and also just a child. How dare you? How dare you attack her? Don't attack her. Despite her lecture laying out all the ways in which adults have destroyed her childhood, she's a sought-after speaker over whom most of the world fawns, garners breathless media praise and attention for telling others how to live their lives. The girl is currently living out her dreams and having one of the most awesome childhoods of all time, so it's unclear how her childhood has been stolen from her. But we'll stop now because we're coming dangerously close to attacking a child. Meanwhile, kids in poverty around the world are trying to appreciate the blessings they do have. So, Greta Thunberg is Times Person of the Year, which is okay. She can be the Times Person of the Year. It's all right. Don't need to make a big hullabaloo about it. This article was just funny, and so I just put it in because it is hilarious. So, I want to thank you all for listening to my rambling. I'll try and make sure that next week we have more information about impeachment and stuff like that, and I'll also be more organized because I'll have more free time because I'll be graduated. Woo! No more school for the rest of my life. I'm so excited about that. I'll have no more papers, no more work for the rest of my life. So, I want to thank you all for listening. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you do all that. Also, if you want to write in the comments, congrats, everyone. Everyone who's listening right now, write congrats in the comment section for me. It'll mean a lot to me. And also, subscribe and all that good stuff, okay? So, just like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving. Goodbye.